What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Box Out Boys podcast. We are the NBA podcast of the people, your home for lukewarm takes and substandard analysis. I'm Titus Two Shots Dominguez. With me, as always, is Chris, the Stats Man Gorman. Hit him with the stats, Chris.
Hey. I don't have a stat, but the Karl Anthony Towns trade did just officially go through. So we can talk about it now. That's why we haven't been.
That's why we've been waiting,
We wanted to
guys.
wait. We just wanted
really
to wait.
We wanted it to be a fish. And you know what? I just lost. He got me off the train here. Joey McCroskey, get that Joe. I lost it.
I'm off the train too, but get that Joe. That's good. That's a nice Bulls reference from the other half of the pod that we'll talk about.
I should have said. This is what I should have said. And also blooming from the concrete.
Ah.
There, that would have been. Oh man, this would have been so good. But that's what I was trying to think of, and I couldn't put it on my tongue. But it's all right. If you've listened to our last podcast, you know we were a little bit off. Maybe we were missing some information. We needed an addendum. That's what tonight is. We recorded that pod prior, our previews for the Bulls and the Timberwolves prior to the big news. Big news for one organization in Minnesota, moving Karl Anthony Towns in a wild, unexpected trade. And then, of course, sort of Bulls-related, tangential, the retirement of Derrick Rose. So we're going to touch on those two things tonight.
Tangential. Wow.
Tangential. Yeah. Look at that, man.
Great job.
Look at the words tonight. Real wordsmith.
Wow.
Okay. All right, Chris, let's just get right into it, man. You're up there in the Northland. What's the feeling like? What's the vibe? And then let's just go around the horn. We'll do our initial gut reactions. Then we can maybe get deeper into the trade.
We're all heartbroken up here in Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns just sent out a heartwarming video today, saying thank you, Minnesota, for the 9 years. The thing is, like, we're all. I don't want to go into it right now. He was a fine man. We're all gonna miss him dearly, and I think. But honestly,
excited for a new chapter here.
We're excited for the next chapter. Let's say that. Yeah,
that's what it seems like. Joey, what were your thoughts on the initial trade, and then kind of maybe some initial reaction to it, I guess.
The initial reaction was wow. Didn't see that coming. Shams gets the first big hit of his solo career here. The second thought immediately was, well, this is clearly a salary dump, right? This is clearly a way to avoid that conversation down the road, and you're putting all your eggs in the Anthony Edwards basket. I guess like that was the initial thought. The slightly after the initial thought.
Nice basket.
It's a very nice basket.
It's a very, very good basket. The immediately after the initial thought was this. If enough people are kind of like, WTF, then I think that it's probably a fair trade. And it seems like you could probably find enough pros and cons on both sides of the house here for both of these teams that it almost seems like it was necessary for the Wolves to do from the money standpoint. And the Knicks were kind of thinking, hey, it's necessary for us to do to kind of maybe elevate ourselves to maybe get over the hump, trying to build a team to beat the Celtics.
Yeah, no, I like those takes. My initial take was honestly was why. I was like, whoa. It was like a whoa, like you were saying, but there was a lot of like, why this? Why now? I guess I kind of got it from the Knicks side a little bit because I knew they were looking for a center. That was the rumor going around. I just didn't think it was going to be Cat. And then from the Minnesota side, for me in particular, it was a real big, okay. Like, are we sure we want to do that? We can get more into it here. So, Chris, kind of now that you've had the time with it, sit with it, said you kind of had some stats. What were your thoughts on the trade? How do you feel? Maybe who do you feel won or lost the trade? And we can kind of go on horn there.
Well, it's funny. Like, Cat was always in trade rumors, right? So it was like the most obvious trade for so long, but then they make it to the Western Conference Finals, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, they're not going to make this trade now."
Yeah,
right. Like, why would they make this trade? They just made it one round away. But the more I thought about the Cat trade, the more we looked up. There was a guy that looked up the best three-man combinations for the Timberwolves last year. It was Edwards, Gobert, and Naz Reid with a plus 12.9 in 573 minutes played. Then it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Edwards, Gobert, Kyle Anderson, Edwards, Nas. The point is, of the top 5, none included Towns, right?
Oh wow.
3-man or 2-man. Even a 2-man game, the top was Gobert and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Gobert and Nas. And like people, there were some things I saw that's like, oh, they traded the wrong big. They should have traded Gobert. It's like there's no chance they're trading Gobert, right? Like Towns was the guy that you would trade in this scenario. Another stat that like was crazy. Cat stats on drives last year: 9.5 drives per game, pass out of 20% of them for 6% assist percentage and a 10% turnover percentage. Randle would do 14 drives a game, pass percentage is 38, assists is about 10, his turnovers is 7. So on drives, Randle's a more efficient player, and he's also like a sneaky good playmaker. Even though like there's been talks about how he's a ball stopper, being the big guy, which I'm excited to see. I've been watching Randle a little bit. I know it's a lost art that maybe he'll bring back a little bit. I think I'm hopeful that he'll adjust having Gobert and having a player like Edwards there. He won't be too much of a ball stopper. Last time this happened was with Russell, and that did not work out as well. But Randall's fighting for another contract too. He's got a player option next year. I think he's gonna, play into his role a little bit more. So I think this is a really good trade. And I didn't even mention Donte Divincenzo yet. He's the best shooter on the team or on the Knicks. Now we get him in the Timberwolves. You can always use a guy like that. It's going to be a home run pick, especially. It's also a cost saving move. I know our boy Seth hated it, and he's been on a rant about it. I was like, he's just tired of these teams trying to cost save money. But I think this is really overall solid move. The more and more I look into it.
Joey, any thoughts on that rebuttal?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's much rebuttal. I think the last part on the Divincenzo piece, I think is huge. Like when I was reading about it and listening to some stuff, it kind of reminded me of like an offensive Alex Caruso, right? Like he's on a super favorable team
that's
contract, like super hustle player. He's fighting through screens, like he's going to be diving for loose balls, but he can also come in and get your 20, 25 off the bench if you absolutely need it. That seems like a piece that maybe was missing. Like Minnesota had really good depth last year, good bench, but all their depth in like bench, stop me if I'm wrong, Chris, but like it was bigs, like not like centers, but like bigger guys. Like you don't have that like scrappy kind of.
Nas, it was Kyle.
Yeah. Like this guy can get you a bucket from anywhere on the floor in a manner that, they don't necessarily have. It's almost like, dollar store Anthony Edwards coming in, right? Like you've got this little firecracker that can do it. So that was an exciting piece, at least in my mind. It kind of like both teams win. Like it just seems to make good sense for both of them. Like Cat, clearly there was a lot of frustrations. And as you mentioned, right, he'd been discussed in trade rumors for the past 2-3 seasons at least now. And it was kind of like, all right, you're either really hot or you're getting stupid fouls and making everybody hate you. And we want to kick you down the street. So maybe a change of pace is good. Maybe a coach like Tibbs is good for him. Like in New York, Brunson and
again.
Yeah.
Right.
The second time.
Brunson
Without
and Cat,
Jimmy.
like that. Brunson and Cat seems like a really good, like pick and pop kind of combo, right? Like that seems like something that could be pretty effective for them. So I can't find like a super negative around either one of these teams. If anything, then the negative is that New York had to give up Divincenzo, but the rumors were he wasn't happy with his role and didn't want to be there anyway. So at the end, they're probably not that unhappy that he left.
Yeah, if that's the case, there are definitely some things, hearing you guys talk that I haven't heard other places, specifically with Chris saying like that, the 3-man lineup. I wasn't, aware of that one, the Cat not being in those top lineups, which is weird. But I'll be quite honest, I kind of hate this for both teams, weirdly. And I'm usually the swing for the fences guy. I think I'll start with the Knicks because I'm a little bit more in wait and see, I guess. I think they got the best player in the trade. in Cat. I kind of like that they're pushing all in. Obviously, with going with getting Bridges and Anunoby over the last what was it, like 9 months, last half a year here.
Mhm.
I think that was solid for them. I think this makes them a very interesting matchup for the Celtics. I don't like to see a team really go all in to beat one team in a conference. We saw what happened with Timberwolves, where they kind of went all in to beat the Nuggets, and then lost to Dallas, which is kind of what you don't want to have happen. But I also now with Cat, kind of being as a matchup to Porzingis, that makes them really a really interesting matchup against Boston, and I like that for them. But I think what you guys are talking about with Cat kind of being, a wild card at times, it's definitely something that I'm in wait and see mode. And I don't love breaking up the Nova Knicks, but if it was Divincenzo kind of maybe not being super happy about being there, maybe that was a good thing. But
another fun caveat with this
Yeah.
is not just that they get to play the Celtics, is that Embiid gets to play Towns, and they don't have a very friendly relationship. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for Towns. I think he's
I'm
either going to
excited for
boom or
Towns.
bust.
Yeah,
here, right?
He's gonna figure it out one way or the other.
Yeah.
I did hear I think it was on the NBA group chat on Ringer. They said this means the New York Knicks aren't taking Philly seriously because they were not concerned about necessarily a matchup with Embiid. They're like, he's not going to be there. We're not worried about it.
Oh, right.
So I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were more focused on the Celtics. So that was kind of cool. Like, they're not taking Philly seriously. But as far as as far as Minnesota goes, this is where maybe I should kind of default to Chris here, but man, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I mean, I think basketball wise, kind of the stuff you pointed out, I think that's fine. I actually, and it might work and it might not be as bad, but I think it could end up being a bad vibes trade if Randle doesn't really work out. And if the whole thing was like, hey, we're coming back and we're going to try to, we got to, the conference finals. We want to do it again. And sort of that continuity of it. I don't like losing that. I think especially in this, the recent NBA kind of the way the playoffs have been going, it seems like those teams that have kind of been through the wars together tend to break through at times after a few. I mean, if it's not working, you got to move on. I've always been a big proponent of that. But you had one real crack at it, and you looked really good. And to me, to kind of go, all right, well, we want to extend this window. I get the idea of Ant's the guy, and we want to prolong the chances he has at it. And I could be completely wrong, right? But I'm a firm believer in you may only have one or two shots at it, as we'll get into later tonight with like Derrick Rose. I mean, you could look at that as a sign. Like how long do we think that team was going to be good for? And then you get one shot. And I don't love it because I just don't think that makes them a real contender this year or a better contender this year than they were. I could be wrong, but that's something I just was not a fan of it. I was like, man, I don't know if I would do that. I think I would just run it back, see where you got. And then you could always make the budget cut at the end of like, all right, it didn't work. We know it's not going to work. Move on from Cat and let's reset around Ant and we're fine. But
I was wondering, yes, I agree. This makes
Yeah.
them a little bit worse. I had my over under win totals. I took 2 wins off of the Timberwolves because of this.
Yeah.
Like they don't, but the thing is, I think they're looking more at like this team of being Naz Reid, McDaniels, and Edwards, who are all like 23, 24, 25 years old, which feels so young, dude. Like,
yeah.
and then they have the rookies with Shannon and Dillingham. And it feels like they want them to develop. They're not going to be ready this year to compete at that highest of a level, but they can at least be really competitive. And it's kind of like trying to balance that window for Edwards. I kind of like it in that sense, but yeah, it definitely lowers the ceiling. For them, and it's a bummer. And then like the thing with Seth, what Seth was saying, part now was like Wemby is coming. Like you want to win before Wemby comes. Like, but it's like I don't know. Edwards against Wemby would be like really fun,
cool.
like really cool matchup, right? Like a tree versus the knight trying to. Anyways,
yeah. No, I kind of get where they're coming from, and it's weird because I kind of think it makes me sort of feel like I'm contradicting myself in what I normally say, where a lot of times it's how many cracks at the thing can you get, and kind of resetting around Nas and McDaniels and Ant. Like to me, on paper, it sounds brilliant. Like that's the move. It's all right. That's really our core, and let's push and let's see how many times we can kind of, work these guys into it. They're not quite ready yet, but I also felt like the West is fairly not wide open, but I think there was 4 teams that we were talking about preseason that could win the West, and like in theory, in everybody's head, right? And the Wolves were one of them. And I thought it was a matchup situation. All right, they get the right matchups in the playoffs, they could easily go to the finals. And I just don't like throwing away a chance at it for like maybe a few other chances down the road when you don't know what's going to happen. And it just seems weird. But
what's the deal Randle's on? It's 1 year, right?
1
year player option.
So next year Nas Reed's a free agent, right?
Yeah.
And
they have to sign him. He'll get paid.
To me, this is almost like it's a 1 year deal with Randle. Like it almost feels like Minnesota had seen enough from Karl Anthony Towns that they had decided that this was the player he was, regardless of what they did last year, and that there was no way they were getting any further with him on the team. Right. And it seems like, hey, we can make this trade now. Maybe Julius Randle works for a year. If not, he's on a 1 year deal. He's out. We keep Divincenzo. We can extend Nas Reed. If Nas Reed becomes basically what you want Karl Anthony Towns was.
Mm-hmm.
And then do they have a little bit of money open to do something? Like I'm just looking at free agent
I think they would have money then at that point.
They've got, so next year you've got Miles Turner coming off free agent, Aaron Gordon, Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram. It's like, there's some names out there that potentially could fit. Like if you're going to let a Julius Randle walk after 1 year, that you could add if Nas Reed pans out. So to me, it feels like, hey, Cat, we saw enough. We know what you are, and then that's not getting us over the hump. We're going to make a try for 1 year, see if it works. If not, there's a talent pool out there that may want to come play with Anthony Edwards, which I don't think it'd be tough to argue that that's probably a pretty reasonable thing to try.
It definitely does seem like it's a bet on
saying Minnesota becomes a destination.
I mean, like who else is going to have an opening that becomes a destination?
Right. I mean, like that's the thing, like the cap stuff. I don't know about.
As appealing as Anthony Edwards, right?
Well, as appealing that would have space, right? Like Boston's probably not shaking that up.
No, that's going to be locked in for a while.
Denver, maybe, but like
yeah,
I don't know if like Jokic is a dude, but like I don't know. Los Angeles, like who's going to want to go play with Kawhi? No one wants to do that anymore.
Kawhi doesn't really wants to play.
The only real competition is it's probably San Antonio, but like you said, Wemby's probably 2 years out before people are like, hey, I want to go play with this dude now. Right? Like you're not gonna waste the final couple of seasons of your career waiting on Wemby to get up to speed. So I don't know. I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Does this make the Timberwolves worse than the Nuggets? Because I feel like going into the season they were considered better than the Nuggets, but does this make them behind the Nuggets?
In my opinion, it does. Like, this is a question I do want to ask you guys. I still think they're top 4, but do you guys think it moved them at all? Because I felt like, all right, OKC is kind of the clear number 1. I feel like this puts Denver in the clear number 2, just because of how well of a matchup Cat was on Jokic. Without Cat, they're not beating
right.
Denver. And I mean, maybe Nas Reed picks it up, and that all could happen. But that to me, I still think they're 3. They're like, but instead of like a clear 3 to me, they're maybe like a 3A, 3B situation with the Mavs. And I could easily see, and maybe the Mavs are actually 3, and now Minnesota's 4, and that could be where they're at. That's to me what it feels like, kind of what happened. Where instead of maybe being that second or 2B team, they were. Did they move the needle for you guys at all as far as that? Move them up or down in the sort of power?
Like
ranking?
they moved me down, but like they didn't. I still have them in that 4 group. I kind of have the Mavericks higher. I don't know why everyone's underrating the Mavericks so much. We'll get into that.
We'll have to come up with.
But like, I'm kind of like, why the Mavericks they're just in the finals.
That's a one.
They have the whole
That feels like a
team's
one
back.
and done. That just feels like a one and done to me. I don't know why.
We can get, okay. We'll table that, but that's yeah.
I could be wrong. Joey, did they move up or down for you at all?
I think they kind of just stay the same. Like I don't.
Kind of,
That
right?
is a large water jug.
It's a large man.
That's true. No, I don't. I don't
Where
know.
did you have them? Did you have them kind of top 3 or top 4, or were you kind of maybe top 2?
I think they're kind of top 2. I'm out on Denver. I was out on Denver last year.
So
I was
that's
never
kind
in
of
on
how I'm
Denver.
feeling. Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Well, you're out on Jamal, so
I'm out on Jamal. I've never been in on Jamal, so I'm out as a whole.
I just can't count out Jokic just yet. Like I got to see it happen one more time to him before I'm like, all right, he just doesn't. He's not. Yeah. He can't just carry a team.
That's fair. But like, didn't Cat miss a pretty decent amount of games last year?
He misses an average of 29 games a year for the last 4 years.
They fared pretty well without him last year, and then I mean, he had games in the playoffs, but it wasn't like he was he wasn't an absolute deciding factor in everything. The one game I think he was, but like I don't know. I feel like you're getting almost similar production.
His turnovers are high, and he shoots 40% or worse in like a quarter of his playoff games. Towns was tough to root for sometimes.
Yeah. I think the problem, and this is maybe the thing with Towns, is he plays himself off the court in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We're like kind of what Chris was talking about, where maybe you get rid of Gobert. Gobert gets played off the court in the playoffs, and that's what I don't like. I mean, the Towns thing, you could always go.
Imagine if they were one person.
Yeah, if they were one person, they would be the best.
It's like they were like out there, right? Like
but they're just, and this is what I think. I actually think they're gonna be a really good regular season team. This is the one thing I'm not. Yeah. I think they're gonna be a solid regular season team.
There's so much depth, right?
Yeah, they have the depth, but the playoff happens. You play 7-8 guys anyway, and the rotations tighten up, and then Gobert's gonna be a non-factor, and he's gonna get cooked again.
He was so good at these plays.
He was good, but like
I know Jokic cooked them.
Jokic cooked them, and then Luka cooked them. It's just
and then the alley-oops in the Mavericks was just so ridiculous. Yeah.
It just sucks because you're like, man, come on, Gobert.
Aren't you better, Gobert? Yeah,
aren't you better?
That's fair.
But go better. All right. I think it's definitely a wait and see, though. It's definitely wait and see.
How about the trade overall?
Yeah. It was a great trade. It was a great trade. How about the Knicks? Did they kind of move up your guys' board at all? Because I think we all had them top 4 as well.
I think they have a chance to be the best regular season team.
Okay.
And that's a little bit because of this trade, but also because Thibodeau is a madman.
Yeah.
Right. And he just wants to go for those 60 wins. Mm-hmm. And I think they'll have something to prove, right? Yeah. I mean, Brunson gave up $100 million essentially to bring in Karl Anthony Towns, right? That was essentially what they've been working on this deal for months, and that's kind of what you got. So I think this makes the Knicks are. I think it does make them like the clear-cut number 2 team. The Bucks vibes seem off. The Sixers, who cares?
Yeah,
and then we got Cavs, Pacers, Magic, who are all like the same team, just a little bit,
Those are all the same.
But I mean, it's kind of like when Houston had a retool to go against Golden State. Right now, we got teams need to retool against Boston.
It's interesting, though. I'm so curious what's going to happen with the Knicks. Very curious.
Be a fun watch.
Are you going to be rooting for Cat in New York, or are you going to be easy dead?
This will be the first time I actually care to watch New York basketball in like a, on a meaningful level.
It is going to be. It is going to be hilarious. Him in the Garden, though.
Since Derrick Rose was there.
So D Rose, let's get into D Rose. All right, Joey, your time to shine.
My time.
It's all our time to shine, guys. Let's just go down memory lane here for a little bit. D Rose retired. He kind of put out the statement. It was a lovely statement from him. Joey, let's start with you, man. Your thoughts on his retirement, and then maybe let's chop it up about the old days.
Yeah. Do you want me to rip through some notes?
Yeah, rip some notes.
All right. So career stats, he ends with 17.4 points per game, 5.2 assists, 3.2 rebounds.
Not bad.
Playoff stats in the seasons that he made it: 21.9 points, 6.3 assists, 4.3 rebounds. obviously ends with the MVP in 2010, 2011, the youngest MVP in NBA history. I'm assuming that will probably
it's gonna stand for a while.
Stand for a little while.
How old was Wemby?
Wemby would be. I was just about to say, unless Wemby this year or next year, but I think there's too many other guys in the way.
Yeah.
Rookie of the year in 08-09, also made the all-rookie team that season as well. He was on the all-NBA team in his same year as his MVP, and then 3-time All-Star. And then the last piece, kind of the fun aspect of it, of the rule change that has been enacted, the D Rose rule, right? That was created specifically because of him having as much success as he did in his third season in the NBA. Where they made it, you can now make rookies coming off a rookie deal can make 30% of the salary cap versus 25% if they have an MVP in any of the 3 seasons, or what is it? All NBA or DPOY in any of the 3 seasons as well. So a lot of guys on some big deals have D Rose to thank for part of that. Overall, though, obviously the big obvious point, right, is the injuries that marred pretty much his entire ascension. But the positive in this is, if I ask you to name 2 of the most influential Bulls of our lifetime, there's probably he's probably right up there, right? You probably go MJ, D Rose.
I think so.
Noah. Oh yeah, MJ, yeah.
Heinrich.
Yeah.
And also the point too, I think no Dunks got to talk about this today too. I kind of forgot about this, but like he broke LeBron's like streak of MVPs.
Yeah.
Like yes, he was never the best player in the league, even at his peak in that 11 season, but he was the only person who really kind of like broke the chain of it.
You know, he got that MVP season, he received 113 of the 123 first place votes. Like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And people look at that and are like, yeah, he kind of took it from LeBron. But it's like, no, he ran out and like LeBron finished 3rd that year. It's so, I don't know.
That is wild. Well, he also did go to the Heat in a pretty dramatic fashion. So I think there wasn't a lot of love for LeBron.
Derrick Rose went 3-0 against LeBron in the regular season that year. That's the reason why he won MVP, in my opinion.
I remember.
It's classic Bulls. It's classic.
Oh, yeah. I remember talking about them swept out of the playoffs, right? If I'm not correct.
But it is just cool to hear.
Okay.
In the finals, in the conference,
finals. All right, that was the conference finals year? Okay.
Yeah, conference finals year. It's super cool though to hear players from that era like talk about D Rose and talk about, like the Rose flu, that, guys would be out games because they didn't want any part of him in that season. And
he was that dude, man.
He was that dude. Yeah, I mean, and then too, like it's obviously important to us as Bulls fans because it was the last time that we probably had hope.
Mm-hmm.
But then to think that like he went to New York, they made the playoffs and he was in New York. I mean, he was pretty. I mean, he played a fair amount there, right? That wasn't just
no, he was getting minutes.
He was pretty good there. I mean, he went to Minnesota. Chris, he scored 50, right?
Scored 50
in the game,
man.
In Minnesota, in the Prince jerseys.
Year before I moved out here,
or I don't know, the blue jerseys, whatever. We scored 50
in
Minnesota.
In the Prince.
And then it kind of just bounced around a lot, but 16 seasons overall. That's a pretty decent career for a guy who probably could have hung it up after 2014.
Yeah,
right. I mean, he missed the whole season with the ACL, came back, played 10 games toward the other one, and then missed that whole season, came back and played like 20 something games the next season. So for a guy who could have easily hung it up and nobody would have blamed him one bit, he didn't. He stuck it out and kind of went through it. And one more thing before we go down memory lane, just in like fun stuff. I've been reading a book about him. Well, not about him, by him. His like autobiography that Sam Smith, the old Bulls beat reporter, wrote. Derrick he specifically mentions that he really hates when people blame Tibbs for leaving him in the game against the 76ers.
Yeah.
And he specifically says that it's his fault and that he should have been more aware of the situation, and he knew that they were up big, and there was no reason for him to be driving to the lane and trying to do a jump pass like that.
Wow.
No, it's good for him to say.
It was super.
What was that
interesting.
book?
Like,
What's
I
that
never
book called? I think I read that book.
It's called I'll show you. I'll show you.
Yeah.
You.
It was really
I'll
interesting.
show
I
you.
was like, yeah, that's actually a really good point. Like, yeah,
I still
Tibbs
blame
could have
Tibbs.
taken him out, but
That's why you take players out, because
Yeah,
they have
protect
that
them from themselves.
gear. Like, that's their
Yeah.
point.
from themselves. But it was just interesting, like reading that. It was kind of like, yeah, that was kind of the demeanor that he did carry himself with. Obviously, there was a lot of other stuff that we don't know about and how he carried himself, but the way that we saw him and perceived him was always kind of the humble, like, hey, this is on me. And a lot of times when things went bad for them, like when the Heat were beating them, they came back, or he came back and, made adjustments, and they tried to have success. They just happened to run into a guy who.
It's one of the biggest what ifs, though. That next year, man.
But next year,
when he got hurt, like that was the what if. Like he was a little hurt that year. I'm pretty sure, right? He only played like 50 or 60 games.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, they're the 1 seed. They're playing the Sixers. We're gonna go. We get home court against Miami. Let's take it back.
They had a 9 net rating. Yeah.
Yeah, the net rating was there.
The net rating was there. I mean, net rating is there. Statistically, they could have done it.
Everything was right.
That's probably their best shot. And then that's when the injury happened. I think that's why it was such a horrible and lasting memory. I think you're right, Joey. Like, we can kind of go down memory lane here a little bit too, but though I think the one thing that will stick with me forever is just like how it felt to have that dude on your team. Because we were all younger when Jordan. I mean, I was 12 when Jordan hit the shot, right? So I barely remember Jordan. Yeah, I remember him, but I remember him like from that kid's mindset. And then we had just those down years where they were terrible. And yeah, you had Heinrich and whatever. They were
Ben
fun,
Gordon.
but Ben Gordon years, Luol Deng, they were fun. Then they get into the lottery, happen to move up, and get this dude
frozen envelope moment.
Frozen envelope, which I'm all for. Please, send us somebody like that.
And they chose the guy that a lot of people didn't think should have been the number 1 pick.
Yeah. But I just felt like they would have been silly to not take him just from the whole Chicago thing.
1,000%.
Yeah.
But
but a lot of there was
them if they didn't.
There was debate at the time, and
Beasley still says he was a top guy in the league. He just never got used correctly.
Yeah, that's what they all say, right? That happens.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, the coach benched me. But I don't know, man. Just that feeling when he was there, and that first series against Boston in the playoffs, and it was overtime after overtime, and that dude was just being nasty, and I was just the love for basketball was just like, this is what I want. This is what I want to have in Chicago.
I don't think I've had that feeling since.
Yeah,
right.
How like does Ant kind of, or is it not really because you're not
Ant's the newest? Yeah,
right.
That's it. Since
yeah.
But like, I guess it's kind of like I'm glad I live here, so I can at least feel like it's closer.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the games. But Ant is the new. I had Jordan, and then Derrick Rose when I was 20.
Yeah.
Now I'm in my mid 30s,
and now you're like,
and I'm rooting for this younger 20-year-old guy. But whatever. Derrick Rose is at least like a year older than me, so I didn't feel that weird rooting for him. But like Ant's like 10 years younger than me, and I'm just like, let's go Ant. Yeah,
let's go Ant.
But yeah, he's my like when Ant fell in that playoff game against the Nuggets, and then I'm like, oh god, is he getting up? Is this? Yeah, no, I'm like, this is just PTSD with Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
I hope he does. I hope this is kind of like the season after Derrick Rose made it to the conference finals, right? Edwards is now in. But this is finally. But the point is for Bulls fans, we haven't had that since Derrick. That's why Derrick Rose is so electrifying, because it was like, okay, we have it now.
Yeah, we have it now.
We have our modern Jordan, and then it was just taken from us in the most unfair, heartbreaking fashion. Like,
yeah, I mean, like I could never not talk about it without just that little bit of, God damn it, man. Like it was
such like a new thing too. Like there wasn't a point guard previously who played like that.
Yeah, no, he was a difference maker.
Right. Like there weren't,
changer.
It wasn't like, hey, there's this point guard who's going to come in here and be able to do these things. It was like, holy shit, this is athleticism like we haven't seen before in a position that typically doesn't have it, from a guy who's 6'2",
Yeah, I remember the time.
Listed at 6'3", but he's 2 inches taller than me. He's shorter.
He's
than
at
me.
least he's like 6 feet, 6'1". Yeah, there's no chance.
I was saying it at the time. I'm like, if he was LeBron size, he would be better than LeBron. And I remember like that was my whole argument at the time because I was the LeBron hater when he went to the Heat, and I was like, dude, if he was that dude's size, if he was big, could you imagine this guy? But he was still at that size, was elite, like a Iverson level, like Steph. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Is there a specific a D Rose moment that is the moment you always remember him for?
Is the game blouses meme from the Boston series?
I don't know.
I think that's the specific memory I'm going to have is the Boston
series. So his rookie playoff debut. He set he's up there with like Kareem and one more person.
Duncan or somebody.
Yeah, it's like Duncan for like they could score 36 points, whatever, in their rookie debut.
Because he was a rookie at the time, or no?
He was a rookie.
Yeah. Okay. So because he was a rookie, and that was Boston. Boston was still pretty good at the time, right?
It was Pearson, Allen, Garnett was hurt for the series, but Boston was supposed to wipe the floor with them. They were supposed to sweep them out, and it wasn't even supposed to be like a challenge in any way, shape, or form.
And they were coming off the title, right?
Yeah, and then the Bulls strolled in there with this new guy, rookie, who put it on their heads a few times.
He took it to him, and this is what I remember because that was when it was like, oh, dude, this guy is for real. And I knew it. I was like, all right, cool. And then the hype was, then it was next year. Why can't I be the MVP and all this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And then it snowballed. So
okay, that's a good one. I mean,
that's what's always going to stick with me.
That is
that feeling.
Moment. It's a good one. Mine is the buzzer beater in Milwaukee in 2012.
It's a deep
so it's right after the next season after the ACL, and over Brandon Jennings. I don't know why, but for some reason, just like the angle of that shot, like I remember it. I feel like I remember watching it and just, I don't know. It was when we actually had like dominance over Milwaukee, and it felt like we were gonna continue on that trajectory forever. I don't know why, but that one sticks with me more than the 3-point bank shot to beat the Heat in Game 3.
Yeah, that's the one. Right,
whatever finals that was, or whatever conference finals, semifinals.
Chris, a moment or anything?
That's the one, and the only. I mean, I don't know. I don't have like a specific moment. But like anytime I think about Derrick Rose, I think about like that when he was doing it against the Sixers. And I was like, oh, all right, we're going to have another run. This will be great. And then he kind of does a weird pass and then falls wrong. And I'm like, oh, he'll get up. He'll be all right. I just remember that going through my head. That was the first thing that went through my head, me thinking, oh, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll get back up. Nobody hit him. It's fine.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned about a torn ACL. And I've seen it happen twice in real life. That's a good point.
That's the first time I learned what that was.
And now I've seen Kyle did that. And then another guy I was playing basketball with tore their ACLs similar ways. I'm like, last time I saw it, he tore his ACL. The guy was like, I hope that didn't happen. Sure enough. But it's not a great memory, but like, I don't know. I always remember him driving to the paint,
be the one that
doing these acrobatic moves. It's unreal. And like, people are like, John Morant's that guy today. And like, I need to watch John Morant this season to really see if it's back, because like people are like, oh, Russell was better because the stats are better for Russell Westbrook. But it's like, he wasn't even.
No, Russell wasn't like. I mean, Rose was different.
He was like a bully, but
like
Derrick Rose is a magician. It's beautiful what he does compared to anybody else. Like it's just
Ja's more of like a high flyer, where he's more like coming from like feels like off the top rope. Rose was just like the angles, like Joey was saying. It was like how he would do stuff. You'd be like, what the hell? How do you get that shot off?
It's like a contortionist.
Yeah.
He's moving.
The other one, too, is the dunk on Dragic. That's the other one. I think
dunk on Dragic is great.
Yeah.
The Christmas Day floater over Kobe.
That one I don't remember.
In the paint. Yeah. That was the lockout season. I think it was like one of the first slated games.
He floated up over Kobe.
He floated in LA on Christmas Day. I think it was the short sleeve jerseys they were wearing.
Oh, nice.
Hit a floater over Kobe in the lane.
Should they bring those back?
No.
I think I'd prefer that over some of these city jerseys.
Wow,
silly.
Some of those were.
They'd still be hideous though. They just put the same design on.
They
the
just
side.
have sleeves
That's
on them.
true. Yeah.
They would just have hideous sleeves.
But yeah, I mean, overall, D Rose, awesome. They should retire his number.
Yep.
I think.
He retires his number.
I think January 4th is Rose Day against the Knicks when Tibbs is in town. They need to, like, no one's worn number 1. Somebody wore it and they got so much backlash from the fans that they switched it after like a couple of weeks.
They should definitely retire his number.
Should be retired.
There's no chance.
There's no question.
Mark Burley got his number retired for the Sox. Come on,
He's
Jerry,
from your
you can
city.
do this.
Like, if he wasn't from Chicago, I could see the argument that, like, okay, the MVP is a big deal, but like, it's fine. But like, he's your guy.
And I think it's going to be hard to find because, like you said, because of his career, kind of how it ended up. It's going to be hard to find ways to honor him a lot because I don't think he's going to. He's not part of a championship team. He, borderline Hall of Famer type stuff like that.
Right.
So
Don't
I think
put
it's a
him
real
in your
easy
dumbass
one.
Ring of Honor.
Yeah, this is a really easy one. Chicago, do the right thing here. Hang that thing up.
There's only 3 jerseys up there. Like, just add it. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just one more number.
How long do you think it's? Last question. I feel like we haven't addressed. How long do you think it will take for him to get into the Hall of Fame?
I think it's gonna take a while.
It's gonna take a while, right?
Yeah, I don't think
like Michael Cooper just got in. That was the name that No Dunks mentioned today.
Yeah,
like a Michael Cooper amount of time. I only know Michael Cooper because of Showtime.
No, he'll be quicker, but I think it just kind of depends on who goes in, like who's available when he's available. And I think
I think Tass's point is perfect. Like, he's gonna be one of those guys in a season where there's not a lot of big names up for it. That
we can put Derrick Rose in.
Like, hey, this is the time to put Derrick in when there's not a big slate.
Yeah, I don't think he should be like a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think that's the case, but I think he gets in eventually. For one season,
he'd be the only MVP who never doesn't get in if he doesn't. So
that's why he's got it. Is what he's gonna make.
He's got to get in.
You see guys like Bob Dandridge or even like Vince Carter. I remember watching Vince, not thinking he would ever be a Hall of Fame player, but it's just because he played for.
He played for forever, years, right? And then I think like what Skeets brings up all the time is like, can you tell the story of basketball without him?
Yeah,
and I think that's like those 2 guys in particular, where it's Vince, it's that dunk contest, and it's that Bulls Heat run where LeBron was the enemy and Rose was this guy that was supposed to be unseat him a little bit, and
he was the youngest MVP in history, and that's
you have to.
That is a part of the story. Right? The MVP's been around for this many seasons, and this guy was the only one to ever win it at this age. That's part of the story
of basketball. He belongs there.
I agree. Tim Hart. I think we could tell the NBA story without Tim Hardaway. Sorry, I'm a big Tim Hardaway fan. Like, he made the Hall of Fame a couple years ago.
I agree.
Anyways,
it's all right. Well, a podcast of what could have beens and what is yet to come in some cases for Minnesota and New York. We will find out. But that is all for us tonight. Follow us on the social medias at the Box Out Boys. Slide in those DMs. Tell us what you think of Rose, your favorite Rose memory. What do you think of the Cat and Randle trade? Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on YouTube and Spotify. I very much appreciate that. So until next time, Box Out.